Yeah, that's right. I told on you.
Hello, and welcome back to our podcast. I'm the Disturbed Southern Belle.
And I'm the gentleman.
This week we're going to be talking about some fairy tales that originated in England or the UK. So we're going to go over a couple that are probably a little less known, and then two that are pretty well known, and that is Goldilocks and the Three Bears and Jack and the Beanstalk. So the first one we're going to cover is one that's called The Magician's Tea Party. And it was published in 1900, so it's very old, 123 years, or 24 years old now. So the story starts off with little King Wistful, who is the 8-year-old king of the Cheerful Isles, or as he renamed them, the Monotonous Isles. The king slips through the gates one day to go looking for something interesting because he finds that his kingdom is the dullest and ugliest and most wearisome place in the world. Sounds like a fun place to live.
Yep.
So he goes outside and he starts looking around, surveying his kingdom, and he's commenting on how stupid his kingdom is and feeling sorry for himself. Then he hears this voice, and the voice is from a little girl who's singing. The little girl is singing for little King Wistful to come and play. Nothing suspicious there.
Nope.
Okay, so I'm not going to sing it, but I'll tell you the song. So it goes, sing song, don't be long, wistful, wistful, come and play. Sing song, it's very wrong to stay and stay and stay away. The world is much too nice a place to make you pull so long a face. It's full of people being kind and full of flowers for you to find. There's heaps of folks for you to tease and all the naughtiness you please. To sulk is surely a waste of time when all those trees are yours to climb. Ting-a-ring, make haste, king, I've something really nice to say. Ting-a-ring, a proper king would not make me sing all day.
Definitely nothing suspicious
No,
about this.
that's not suspicious at all. She's just randomly outside his castle singing this song. Okay, so he doesn't see her yet. He just hears the voice. So when she comes into sight, he notices that she has the most brightest brown eyes that he has ever seen. So what do you think her name is?
No idea.
The little girl introduces herself as Eyebright. And when asked where she learned the song, she replies that the magician taught her and that she needed to sing it every day until the king came. So, okay, well, that sounds very sus, but he decides to sit down and talk with her for a while, and he tells Eyebright about how stupid his kingdom is. And she tries to change his mind. I know, a very unique name, but okay, so she tries to change his mind, and she tells him, that everything's, better than what it looks like, blah, 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 but he's not hearing it, and he keeps complaining. So she does not manage to change his mind, but does get him to follow her to go see the magician. Now, why the hell that would come up, I don't know, but here they go. So they travel to the middle island. So apparently, it mentions it later, so I'll just go ahead and give that away, that he lives on 5 little islands. That's why he calls it the Isles. So there are 5 little islands. It does say it later on, but just for anybody who's like, what's the middle island? That's what it's referring to. So they go through the woods and into a boat, and then they get to the magician's cave. And of course,
a cave.
That doesn't,
again, not suspicious at all.
Let's go visit this weird man who knows so much about you that he wrote a little song just wanted me to sing it. And he lives in a cave, so come on, let's go visit this guy. Apparently he finds it perfectly legitimate, so here we go. So the two enter the cave, and Eyebright tells the magician that she brought the king, and that he must disenchant the king so that he can see what a wonderful kingdom he has. Now, where they've gotten that he's enchanted, I do not know, but apparently she believes it. So he goes and he shakes hands with the magician, and then the magician has to, of course, because of the name of the story, the magician's tea party, of course he has to invite him to a tea party just immediately.
Of course.
I mean, right. What else would you do? So the magician performs some magic and makes a table and chairs appear. And then the king and Eyebright set the table, and the three proceed to have a delightful tea party. Why? I don't even really know why.
Standard stuff.
Why this is even a thing, I don't know, but anyway. So after they have their tea, the children tell the magician why they came in the first place. Of course, you gotta have tea first. So they tell him, that he sees everything as monotonous. He can't see anything beautiful, nothing. Everything looks dull and whatever to him. So the magician tells him that the reason the king cannot see his kingdom for the wonderful place that it is was because the wipes threw dust in his eyes as a baby.
Well, all right then.
So very specific. Very, very specific. The magician explains why the wipes would do such a thing, but it doesn't, and then tells him to go see the wipes. But it doesn't explain really why, but anyway. So basically they go to visit the wipes, and where do you think the wipes live?
Where?
At Wipe Land. And so he goes and tells them how to get there, but how do you think they get there? I don't know why he even tells them how to get there.
Magic carpet.
Sorta. He sends them there in a flash of lightning. So why he had to tell them how to get there, I don't know.
Cool.
I guess maybe to get back. I don't know. But anyway. So the king and Eyebright are now in Wipe Land. And they start looking around for a wipe to talk to because, they're just not out all over the place. So they go and they talk to one, and the king tells him that the wipes threw dust in his eyes as a child. And the wipe reveals to him that there's only one thing that can be done to reverse this. He and Eyebright have to exchange eyes.
Okay.
That's the only thing that can be done, the wipe says. So, yeah.
Perfectly logical.
Okay, so the king's a little hesitant, but
I don't know why.
I don't either. But Eyebright, she's all for it, and she just whip, and exchanges their eyes. Apparently, this is something very simple to do. You can pop your eyes out and pop them right in somebody else's head.
Well, yeah, I do that every night.
There you
pop
go.
them out, wash them, and
there you go.
Perfectly fine.
I didn't realize it was that easy, but I need to start doing that then because it sounds like it's a pretty simple thing to do. So, as soon as they exchange eyes, now, why this happens, I don't know, but suddenly they just appear back home, back in his kingdom. No reason. I guess that magic lightning's still doing its job. I don't know. So,
Guess
yeah.
so.
So, he starts looking out over the kingdom now, and now he can see just how wonderful and beautiful his kingdom is. And Eyebright thought she could only see 5 little islands in a row. So there's where the middle isle and all that came in. But the king cannot possibly be mistaken, so she agrees that it's a beautiful kingdom, and then she runs off and the king returns home. But in the final lines of the story, it tells how there is now a king as well as a king of the monotonous islands. This queen always agrees with the king when he tells her how beautiful the kingdom is, because the queen sees everything with the king's eyes. Well, I guess so, since they literally swapped eyeballs. So that one is a little off the wall.
Just a little bit.
And really why it's called the Magician's Tea Party, I don't know, because it doesn't really sound like the tea party played too big a part in the story, but I guess whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter. I guess it's probably maybe something because it's, from England, and that's something, they do regularly have tea. So maybe that's why it played such a big part, but yeah. And that song, oh my God. That's
perfectly normal thing.
A wordsmith right there, I'm telling you. Now that guy, he knew how to write a tune. Okay, our next tale is called The Wise Princess. So this tale begins with the death of the king's wife, leaving the Princess Fernanda without a mother.
Oh no, not Miss Eyebright.
Yeah, well, not her. Well, maybe so, who knows? Maybe it was her. It doesn't say, it just says king, so it never really said his name either. I mean, Wistful, but still. While growing up, the child was so inquisitive that she was deemed the wise princess, although she was scolded by the ladies for wanting to know too much.
Well, of course.
Exactly. I mean, she's a girl. She's not supposed to know that much. So as the years went on, the princess yearned to learn as much as she could. She went through many masters and mistresses, which I'm going to assume are tutors, because that kind of sounds dirty in a way, but whatever. But it was never enough. She wanted more. She wanted to know more. She didn't have enough knowledge. So one day she ventures into a dark cave.
Okay.
But she doesn't find a magician. In this cave, she finds a wise wizard.
So same difference.
Yeah, there you go. Really, though, I mean, if he could do all that, like magically make stuff appear, that does sound more like a wizard really than a magician anyway, but whatever. So she meets him, the wise wizard, and he agrees to teach her everything he knew. But he warns her that she would not find happiness from his teachings. So I'm not sure what he's going to teach her. Maybe he knows a lot of really sad things. I don't know.
Or just dark magic.
Ah, there you go. Maybe that's
typically not a very good thing. It typically comes with a cost.
There you go. So maybe that's what he's teaching her. Doesn't say. It is what he knows. So she agrees nonetheless, though. And in 3 years' time, she has learned all the wizard could teach her. So it makes you think he doesn't really know that much. Yeah. Or she is super, super, super smart. I don't know which.
No. It said she yearned to learn as much as she could, so...
Yeah, so maybe
she was just a really good student.
Maybe. So the princess became so wise, she could identify any animal and speak any language.
Okay, that's impressive.
That is very impressive.
That goes beyond just being a good student.
Yeah, if she could do that, yeah, that's very good. So soon she grew very weary and sick. Her father sent for a doctor, but Princess Fernanda stopped him, for she knew more than he. So apparently she even knows more than the doctors, which back then I don't really figure doctors knew that much, so it wouldn't take much to know more than them.
Just a little bit of common sense.
Okay, so one day Fernanda wandered by the sea, and she came across a bird and a dog.
Well, all right then.
Both of whom appeared to be happy. When she asked them what made them happy, she was not satisfied with their answers, such as, the sky is so blue and the fields are so green, and I have plenty to eat and a soft cushion to rest upon. So she heads back home. When she arrives there, she's still distraught. She's all upset because she's still not happy, even after she apparently knows everything in the entire world and can talk to animals, evidently, because she can speak any language. And she's talking to these dog and bird. So then she asks Doris, who is her favorite maid, why was she so happy? But even the maid couldn't help her. Which, I mean, oh my gosh, if she couldn't help her, I think she's doomed.
Yeah.
So then she goes out and continues to wander and walk, and she came upon a church where a wounded soldier was smiling from his coffin. And she also saw Death in the church and asked him to teach her to smile like the young man. Death also said that he could not teach the wise princess happiness.
Well, I wonder why. I mean, it's Death.
I mean,
who could be more happy?
That's kind of what I was thinking. He should be.
There is no happier figure.
I know. I mean, he's usually always smiling, grinning. Of course, that may be because he's a skull, but still. So then she walks out again and goes wandering again. Now she's back by the seashore again. And this time, though, she sees a drowning child. So she jumps in the water and she saves the child, but the waves were too high to save herself. And Death comes to her and says, I will teach you all you want to know. Then after the princess was dead, the king's servants found her body by the shore with a smile on her face. The people cried while the wizard commended the princess for having achieved happiness, making her the most wise of them all. So apparently she's happy because she's dead. I do not know. What he's going to teach her, I don't know. But apparently she liked the dark stuff. So I don't know.
Personal theory about this, about why she was so happy in death. So she wanted knowledge. Right. That's very obvious in that story.
Very, very obvious.
So maybe it was just the fact that Death was willing to teach her everything she wanted to know that made her happy. Maybe. That actually made her smile in the end.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? I mean, he would probably know certain things that, people on Earth wouldn't know, definitely. So you could think about it like that too. So maybe she finally learned something that brought her. I mean, I don't know. I guess you can look at it any way you want. She did save a child, so she got
that too.
She got that going for her, and then she also finally achieved happiness, even though the old wizard in the cave couldn't, give it to her after 3 years. But I don't know. It's just slightly comical when you think wise wizard. You'd think he would have like this vast amount of knowledge, and it would take, I don't know, just longer than 3 years. But anyway, moving on. So the next tale we're going to cover is an oldie but a goodie, and it is Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Now, the original story was called The Story of the Three Bears, and there wasn't technically a Goldilocks. There is someone in the story, but it's not like the Goldilocks we're used to. So this one is...
Well, that's interesting.
This one, it is. It's kind of funny in some places because it gets a little silly. But anyway, here we go. Once upon a time, there were 3 bears who lived together in a house on their own out in the woods. Because, where else would they live? One of them was a little, small, wee bear, which we normally call baby bear. And one was a middle-sized bear, mama bear. And the other was a great huge bear, and that's Papa Bear usually. It's what we're normally used to call them. But
Yep.
in this, they are not related apparently. They just happen to be different sizes, and they all live in this house, and they're roommates, exactly. So, as bears do, they each had a pot for their porridge. A little pot, little plate, bowl, whatever you want to call it. Because, bears like porridge. Mm-hmm. So, they made their porridge up, and they went over, and they were going to eat it. And, of course, they each had to have their own little chair to sit in.
Naturally.
Of course, a little one for the little wee bear, a middle-sized one for the middle bear, and a great chair for the great huge bear. And I'm loving them names because it says it every single time it describes the bears. It gives their full, small, wee bear. I mean, it goes all, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So, of course, they also each have to have their own bed. A little bed for the little, small, wee bear, and a middle-sized bear for the middle bear, and a great bed for the great, huge bear. So they've all got their little bowls, they've all got their little chairs, and they've all got their little beds. Mm. Now, we've established the context for the story, because this is going to come back. So, one day, after they'd made their porridge for their breakfast and poured it in their little porridge pots, they walked out into the woods because the porridge was too hot to eat, so they thought they'd let it cool. So they go strolling out. And while they were walking, a little old woman came to the house. And she could not have been a good, honest old woman, for first she looked in the window.
Well, all right then.
And then she peeped in the keyhole. And seeing nobody in the house, she lifted the latch.
Well, all right.
And the door
good old
was
breaking and entering.
Yeah, this old woman. And the door wasn't locked because the bears were good bears who did nobody any harm, and they never suspected that anybody would harm them.
That was their first mistake.
There you go. I mean, really, because here comes this little old woman, and I mean, she is bent on getting in this house.
Why? I have no idea.
I don't know it. I don't know what she saw in there that thrilled her so. So she opens the door and she goes in, and she's well pleased when she sees there's porridge on the table. And that's exactly what it says.
May have just been porridge, though.
Yeah, maybe she saw the porridge. She must have been hungry. So, if she had been the good little old woman, she would have waited until the bears came home. And then perhaps they would have asked her for breakfast because they were good bears. And this manner was something that they were known for because they were good-natured and hospitable. But she was an impotent, bad old woman and set about helping herself. I know and this is exactly what it says. This is the actual story. She was an impotent, bad old woman, and she set about helping herself.
I guess this is one of them stories with the moral.
Maybe. So first she tastes the porridge of Papa Bear, we'll say, and that was far too hot for her. And then she had a bad word to say about that, though, so I'm guessing she cussed at this point because it makes a big point of saying that she had a bad word to say about it. Then she tastes the porridge of the middle bear, and that was too cold for her. And she said a bad word about that, too. So this is not only a mean old woman, she is a cusser, too, apparently. She ain't got a good word to say about anything. And then she went to the porridge of the little small wee bear and tasted that. And it was neither too hot nor too cold, but just right. Well, I mean, what else would it be if it wasn't too hot? Wouldn't it be pretty much just right?
Pretty much, yeah.
You would think. But anyway, she liked it so well that she ate it all up. But the naughty old woman said a bad word about the little porridge pot because it didn't hold enough to fill her up. Yeah, really. I mean, it kind of doesn't make sense that the big pot is so hot. I don't know. I guess maybe it's more, I don't know. I don't know. And one of the one's freezing cold, and this other one just, I don't know. Like it seems like the other one would be a little less cooler, and then the baby's bears would be too cold.
Yeah.
But
because there's not as much in it.
Exactly. So. But apparently not. So the little old woman, of course, then toddled off and went on her way. But no, of course not. Of course not. Because we haven't even talked about the chairs in bed yet. Remember, I told you that was coming back into play. So she sits down in the great huge bear's chair. That was too hard for her. Then she sat down in the middle bear's chair, and that one was too soft. So then she goes and sits in the little small wee bear's chair, and that was neither too hard nor too soft, but just right again. So she seats herself in it, and there she sat till the bottom of the chair came out. So the bottom of the chair comes out, so apparently sitting in a chair too long will make the bottom just fall out.
Apparently
and
so.
She falls out on the floor, and of course, she had to say some wicked words about that too. Now I'm wondering what these wicked words are that they got to keep being brought up. So
They must be pretty bad.
She must be cussing a blue streak, as they say. So then, of course, she gets up off the floor and heads upstairs into the bedchamber. And she has to try out all the beds. So the great huge bear was too high of the head. I don't know why it would be. Propped up at the top, I guess. And the middle bear's bed was too high at the foot for her. So I don't know. Apparently she had the foot of the bed elevated. And then she lay down upon the bed of the little small wee bear. And that was neither too high at the head or too low at the feet, but once again...
Apparently this woman's just the size of a small bear.
Apparently so. Evidently, she's not very big. I mean, I don't know what they're considered a small bear. It makes you think like a baby bear. Yeah, that's what you would think, but who knows? So anyway, she gets in that bed and it's just right. And she goes to sleep. But by this time, the three bears thought their porridge would be cool enough, so they start to head on home to have breakfast. Should be no problem here, of course.
No.
Well, actually, it shouldn't be. I mean, I'm thinking there'd probably be enough they could just scoop some of each little pot and fill up the little bear's pot and just eat it. But somebody did eat something. So the huge bear comes in and sees his bowl has been messed around with because there's a spoon in it. It says, somebody's been in my porridge. And then, of course, the middle bear says the same thing. And then it makes a point of saying that her spoon was in her porridge bowl too, or in the middle bear's porridge bowl. And it makes a point of saying, good thing they were wooden spoons, because if they'd been silver ones, the naughty old woman would have put them in her pocket.
Probably.
So I love how it's just, this woman is the most wretched woman on earth, and they make sure that you know it at every point. So anyway, they keep going until it gets to the baby bear, or little bear, with a wee bear. And he goes, somebody has been at my porridge and they've eaten it all up. Upon this, the three bears, seeing that someone had entered their house and eaten up all the baby bears or little bears' porridge, they begin to look around then. Now they're suspicious and they're on high alert. Now, the little old woman who had not put the cushion straight when she rose from the chair of the great bear, so now he knows somebody's been in his chair. And then she had squatted down in the soft cushion and left an imprint on the middle bear's chair. So now they know somebody's been in their chair. They're really obsessed with this stuff, I mean, they got to go one by one and tell you. And then, of course, it gets the little wee bear. And he goes, somebody's been sitting in my chair and has set the bottom out of it. So, okay. Interesting turn of phrase there, but he wasn't right. So then they thought it was necessary that they should make further search through their house. So they go upstairs into the bedchamber and they see this imprints and all that on the bed, and they know somebody's been in the bed until they get over to the little bed. And then, of course, what does he have to say? Somebody's been lying in my bed and here she is. Now this, for some reason, the little bear's voice, the other ones were talking, screaming, saying somebody's been in my bed. She slept through all this. But when the little bear, in his little screechy voice, said what he says, that here she is, whatever, well, that wakes her up. And she has, looking around, and she heard the middle of, the voice of him, and she thought she was hearing a dream and all this, and she wipes the sleep from her eyes. And on one side of the bed, she tumbled herself out. They're all sitting on one side of the bed, I should say. Yeah. And she tumbles out of the other side of the bed. And she runs out, and they had left the window open because they're good bears and they leave the window open every morning. What the heck that matters, I do not know. But she jumps out the window, and whether or not she fell and broke her neck or ran away into the woods, no one knows for sure, because she was never seen again.
So I'm assuming she didn't break her neck.
Well, I'm assuming not, because you would think that, she'd be laying there, but it does also say that.
You break and enter into somebody's house, eat their food, break a chair, and you just go to sleep in one of the beds.
Yeah, really. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. they're going to sleep anytime that and they do it in a bunch of stories, like Snow White, for instance. Yeah, they find her in bed. I mean, oh my God. But yeah, really, you're in some strange person's house that obviously people live there because there's food and stuff out. So yeah, I'm going to go to bed. Got to take a nap. I mean, what else could you do at that point? You got to be tired from, sitting in a chair and falling out on the floor and all that. Cussing and screaming, apparently ranting and raving and all other stuff she did, because why not? Okay, so the last one we're going to cover is Jack and the Beanstalk. It appeared as the story of Jack Spriggins and the Enchanted Bean in 1734, and then it was changed to the History of Jack and the Beanstalk in 1807. It's had some different names, in other words, and it's basically the same story.
A lot of different children's stories, fairy tales have had the same thing.
Right.
They just changed the names over the years.
There you go. I mean, they try to update them to where they make more sense or whatever. And it's sometimes also called Jack and the Giant Man, which, of course, there's a giant. So it starts out, Jack, a poor country boy, trades the family cow for a handful of magic beans. So he's supposed to be taking the cow to town to sell it. And along the way, he meets some old somebody. And they're like, I got these magic beans. They're going to do all, the wonders and all this. And he's got to have them, apparently. So he trades a whole cow for them. And he plants them. And then they grow into a massive, towering beanstalk, reaching up into the clouds. So, of course, what would you do if you saw a giant beanstalk reaching up in the clouds?
You climb it.
You climb it. Exactly.
Everybody knows that.
Exactly. You climb it. I mean, what else would you do? So he climbs it. And he finds himself at the castle of an unfriendly giant. So, of course, he goes on inside.
Naturally.
And finds the giant's wife in the kitchen. And he asks her, could you please give me something to eat? I'm so hungry. Now, she's kind, and she takes pity on him, and she gives him some bread and milk. And when he was eating, the giant comes home. The giant senses his presence. And here he goes. Fee, fi, fo, fum. I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. Because when I think bread, I think ground up bones.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what else anybody else is making their bread out of, but, you gotta have some ground up bones in there. So the wife says, there's no boy in here. So the giant just takes her for his word. Okay. I mean, apparently these senses, he don't have too much faith in them.
Apparently
so he
not.
just takes the word for it, and he eats his dinner and goes to his room. Now, of course, when he goes to his room, he does what everybody does, before they go to bed. He takes out his sacks of gold coins, and he has to count them. You gotta do that every night before you go to bed, of course.
Gotta make sure you didn't drop any.
Well, exactly. Make sure nobody's been in there, whatever. So after he counts them, he puts them aside back where they were or whatever, and then he goes to sleep. So in the night, Jack creeps out of his hiding place and takes one sack of gold coins and climbs back down the beanstalk. And at home, he gives the coins to his mother, and his mother's very happy. Well, I wonder why. And they lived well for some time. And you'd think that would be the end of it, right? I mean, he's got his money, nothing's happened.
No, the giant's got to come back for revenge. Well, everybody knows that.
I don't know why, because Jack's a really good person in this story. I mean, really, you kind of root for the giant a little bit when you hear all the stuff he does. But anyway, so Jack goes and he climbs up the beanstalk to go to the giant's house again. And he asks the giant's wife for food again. But while he was eating, the giant returns again and, of course, gives his little fee-fi-fo speech. And the wife again tells him, there's no boy in here. And so he goes ahead and finishes up his supper and then goes to bed. But before he goes to bed this night, I guess he doesn't count his gold coins every night. This night, he pulls out a hen. And he shouts at it, lay. And the hen lays a golden egg. So apparently this chicken can...
Normal hen.
Yeah, and it can lay on command. I mean, you just yell at it and it'll just pop out a golden egg.
Normal hen.
There you go. So when the giant fell asleep, Jack took the hen and climbed down the beanstalk. Jack's mother was very happy with him. Now this is where I'm kind of wondering, how big is this hen? Is it like a Jack-sized hen? Because you would think if it was a hen for a giant, it would be big. I don't know.
You would think so.
Just thinking, because he's holding it, you think how little a hen would be for him to hold, and how big would that golden egg be if it was just a regular sized hen.
And how heavy that would be.
Well, exactly.
And how heavy that would make the chicken.
Well, exactly. So I don't know how he
carried down that sack of gold.
Well,
if it's a sack of gold for a giant, it should be bigger than him.
You would think so, yeah. You would think so. So he gives his mother the hen, and of course she's all happy again because she's got a hen that'll lay on command golden eggs.
I would be fairly happy as well.
And there you go. So after some days, Jack once again climbs up the beanstalk and he goes to the giant's castle. And he asks the giant's wife again for food. And again, she gives him some bread and milk. And
is she just okay with him stealing from them?
So. I don't know how by now they don't know. I mean, she would know, I would think. I mean, you would think he would be missing this stuff after a bit if it's something he drags out regularly, but apparently she don't care. So while he's eating, of course, the giant comes home again. He's always got this perfectly timed, too.
Yeah, he does.
That every time he's
not perfect enough to catch him.
Yeah.
It's like always just a split second too late.
Exactly. And why is Jack going back at the same time every day? Because he's got to be going around supper time every single day. Just enough time to eat a little milk and bread. And then he knows the giant's coming home. I don't know. But anyway. So he again does the fee-fi-fo-fum. And again, she tells him, don't be silly. There's no boy here. And so he eats and he goes to his room. Now, the giant has a magical harp that could play beautiful songs. And while the giant slept, guess what Jack did?
Tried to take it.
Oh, he didn't try to take it. He took it and was about to leave. But this time, the magic harp cried out, "Help, master, a boy is stealing me." So the giant woke up and saw Jack with a harp. So furious, he goes taking after Jack and he's running after him. But Jack was too fast for him and he ran down the beanstalk. Now, I'm wondering how the hell did he run down the beanstalk?
I don't know.
It does say that. But whatever. And he reached home. The giant followed him down. But Jack quickly ran inside his house and fetched his axe. He began to chop the beanstalk and then the giant fell and died. Jack and his mother were now very rich, and they lived happily ever after. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bed. So I don't really know who I'm rooting for in this, because Jack sounds kind of like a jerk.
Yeah, a bit.
I mean, he's going to this man's house, pretty much.
Mostly I feel bad about the giant's wife.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's being nice to him, and he's stealing them blind.
And basically murdered her husband.
Yeah. Now, I don't know how good of a husband he was or what. I don't know. It never says that. I mean, only time he really doing anything is when he's yelling about him. But, I mean, technically he was right. He was there. But she's feeling sorry for him and covered for him. But, yeah, I mean, he's going up there stealing pretty much everything he can get his hands on. And I'm guessing if he didn't wake up and catch him, he would just kept going back.
Probably.
Until pretty much somebody did something to him, which is kind of messed up because how much money do they need? Because like you said, if he stole a bag of gold that was big enough for a giant.
That should have been enough to set them up for life.
Yeah, exactly. Because this is gold, not like dollars.
And then there's the golden hen.
Yeah.
Well, the hen that lays golden eggs.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's a normal sized hen.
Exactly. Even if it's just a normal sized egg, if that was solid gold, that'd be worth a pretty good bit of money.
Yeah.
So he's just greedy. Because really, why would he even want the harp? Only thing it did was sing. So at this point, he's just being a kind of a dick.
Yeah.
I mean, really, it's just
at this point, he's just stealing for the sake of stealing. Yeah.
And I mean, you gotta think, he's determined because he's climbing up a beanstalk that's supposed to reach up into the sky, up into the clouds.
Yeah.
How high he's got to be climbing. So I wouldn't think that'd be an easy trek either. But anyway.
Plus there's the fact that if he falls, it's over.
Exactly. We're going to wrap up this week with the fairy tales. And next week we're going to be turning it back over to the gentleman.
Where I will be discussing the cryptids of
England,
the UK area. And I'm thinking about doing it as a creepypasta type thing, like telling stories of those cryptids. Let us know down in the comments what you think I should do, or if I should just make it like a list explaining what they are, kind of like a SCP type thing, if you know what that is, for those who know what that is, rather. And I guess that's it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to stay disturbed.